This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between.
This week, Swamp Thing, Season 3, Episode 39.
What is it, Arcane?
You know damn well what it is. The story of you and me and that laboratory accident showing up in this TV script.
I had nothing to do with that. I don't want the truth revealed any more than you do, because if it is, I become a target for every hunter and publicity seeker. I can't allow that.
Well, I can afford it even less. If I can find out who killed Todd Michaels, then I'll know who the Ghost Rider is.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast about inside baseball. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
There's my favorite quote from this was one of the actors, and he said, "Snip it, babe, snip it." And that's what I'm going to be using in life now. When I don't like something, snip it.
Snip it, eh?
Yeah. That's like my mom. My only bad thing my mom will ever say is she's like, "Oh, tell them to get stuffed." That's the worst thing she'll ever say.
So rude.
Yeah, I know. Tell them to get stuffed. I remember once I was like complaining about something when I was a kid, and she's like, "Oh, just tell them to get stuffed." I'm like, "No, it's gonna make it worse. You can't tell like a bully to get stuffed."
Well, Jordan, we took the escape pod from Swamp Thing last week. We reached the end of the road here. We've moved forward. We're warped ahead. We're at Season 3, Episode 39.
That's it. And can you imagine we've missed like 40 episodes of this show?
Jordan, we've missed 65 episodes of Swamp Thing.
Oh my gosh, that's so many episodes.
But I was thinking, this is something we have not done in a long time. I can't even remember the last show we did this with, but we used to occasionally, we'd take the escape pod, and then when we did, the episode we'd miss, we'd kind of go over the titles of the episodes, and you'd try to come up what you think the plot to that episode was. And we haven't done that in a while, and obviously, we're not going to do 65 different episodes of Swamp Thing. You're not going to have to come up with that many episodes, but I've cherry-picked a few episode names, and if you want to think about them, and then you can kind of come up with what you think that episode should be about. And I actually do have a little summary of what each episode is about if we want to compare.
Okay, great.
So the first episode is called The Shipment.
Ooh, The Shipment. The Shipment is an episode where Teresa finds that Billy has been in the slave trade, but he unfortunately was killed. And the shipment there's multiple parts, and it's his body parts, and they're going to ship it back to her as a mean thing to do. But Swamp Thing's like, hey, I can put back Billy if I get all the body parts. So he's going to try to put back Billy together in the swamp as like a new Swamp Thing Jr.
I mean, that's a pretty good episode. My only real question is, who's Billy?
Oh, I keep calling, for the life of me, I keep calling Jim Billy. Jim. It's Jim is what I mean.
Well, Jordan, you're honestly pretty close. That episode is the one where Jim is sold in slavery.
Oh, is it? The Shipment it's called.
Next episode, Jordan. Walk a Mile in My Chutes.
In My Chutes. Oh, I think this is, for this one episode, it's Swamp Thing. It's a romance episode. And a lady falls in love with Swamp Thing, and he tries to explain to her like what his life is like. And the shoot is that's from the sex scene that they have in the end of the episode. He makes a line about shoots.
Interesting. I was thinking that maybe it was an episode where Tressa and Swamp Thing are hanging out. She's just talking about how, worked pretty hard. They're paying her 70 cents on the dollar, and Swamp Thing's like, it's not so bad for you. And she's like, why don't you live it for a day? And he like puts on her high heels and goes to work for her for a week.
Oh, that's even better. My next thing was some sort of pun on chutes and ladders, but...
But Jordan, the actual synopsis for the episode is heavily hinted in that title. Arcane and Swamp Thing, body swap.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good episode.
All right, next episode, Jordan. Are you ready? Listen closely.
Mm-hmm.
Misdemeanor.
Now, is mist M-I-S-T?
That is correct.
Misdemeanor. Maybe it's like an episode where it's very misty. So Swamp Thing is free to kind of like roam more than normal because he's really blocked by the weather, and so he learns a little bit about himself by like spending some time in town.
He like peeps in a lot of windows.
Yeah, he gets to peep in a lot of windows. He gets to like try life on as he would have as Dr. Alec Holland.
Well, not quite, Jordan. It's essentially a crossover episode between Stephen King's The Mist and Swamp Thing. A mist attacks the town, and Arcane and Swamp Thing have to team up.
There's a lot of Arcane and him teaming up. Do you think the actor was like, guys, I'll keep doing Arcane, but you got to give me something. I got to be a good guy sometimes.
Maybe. I mean, it's just more fun when the bad guy and good guy team up.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, next episode, Jordan. Dead and Married.
I think this is another sad Tressa episode where she finds like a guy and he's perfect in every way, and at the end we find out that he's actually dead. He's a zombie.
You're sort of close. It's about a storm comes in, uncovers a car wreck in the swamp, including a couple of married ghosts who don't realize how many years have passed since they died.
Wow, this show really went in different directions than some of those episodes we missed, huh?
It is true. This one is called Mirador's Brain.
Mirador's Brain? Oh, it's actually just a doctor, and his name is Dr. Miradors. And it's about his brain, and he connects it to the swamp and is able to start controlling all of the animals. And Swamp Thing has to learn how to use his powers versus Dr. Mirror Brain, as they're both controlling the swamp. It's a real chess match.
Not too bad, Jordan. You're actually not entirely on the wrong field in some ways. In this episode, Arcane takes his former teacher's brain and transforms and like transfers the information in that brain into his brain, so he has, you know, the institutional knowledge of his former teacher. Unfortunately, Arcane finds out his teacher was also schizophrenic.
That's like the plot to RoboCop 2, where they have the robot who needs to run on a brain, and they give the brain. They decide to put in a drug, like someone who's addicted to drugs, so the robot becomes addicted to drugs. That seems like the same plot.
I mean, that makes sense. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, why wouldn't you take a robot and put someone who's addicted to drugs into it? Anyways, RoboCop 2 is not very good, is what I'm saying. All
right, Jordan. Next episode, Future Tense.
Future Tense. I think this is actually a flashback episode, and what it is I don't know exactly what Swamp Thing's dealing with in the present, but he needs to look back to his past to see the solution for things, and he remembers about the time he was becoming a doctor, and he was very stressed about his finals and the tests he were taking, and how he was acting, and whatever solution he did is what he needed to do in his current life to solve the problem. It's a flashback episode. It's mostly Dr. Holland studying. It's a boring episode.
I'm afraid it's not a flashback episode, Jordan. In this episode, Swamp Thing uses his powers to show a senator the future and the ecological disaster that's coming, and it ends with the synopsis ended with, and it doesn't help.
I was going to say, that sounds like not an episode of Swamp Thing till the very end. I was like, oh no, that's an episode of Swamp Thing.
And Jordan, your final possible episode that we didn't watch, here's the title, Swamp of Dreams.
Ooh, Swamp of Dreams. I think this is weirdly a bit of a renovation episode, and Swamp Thing is peeping through Tressa's window. He sees that she loves these renovation shows, and he's like, maybe I should do a little something to the swamp. So he starts updating it, and he gets a little carried away, and it gets to the part where he gets obsessed, and Arcane has to like pull him away and be like, Swamp Thing, you're wasting all your swamp dollars on this swamp. No one cares. And he's like, but look at my swamp lounger, you know? And that's what the episode is. It's Swamp Thing becoming a little too invested in superficial things like swamp loungers.
That's pretty good. I had a pitch for it too. Mine was Swamp of Dreams. Was in the city, a kid who like is a little nerd gets really into the idea of a swamp and like builds one in his backyard, and that just the act of building a swamp teleports Swamp Thing to the city, and it's Swamp Thing in the big city.
Oh, that's also pretty good.
If you build it, Swamp Thing will come.
Yeah. That would be a real problem for Swamp Thing if anytime there's a new swamp that develops. Not that that's happening in our current environment, but if that happened, he was just like, oh no, not again, and then he's transported over to a swamp.
But the actual plot is Swamp Thing finds some swamp eggs, and he dreams he's a human and in love.
Oh, all those sentences don't seem to go together, but sure.
It's fine. Swamp eggs was in quotes as well, so I don't know what that means.
It's probably because he doesn't either. They're just like, the writer was like, they're swamp eggs. They're like, sorry, are they alligator eggs? Are they duck eggs? They're like, they're swamp eggs.
Well, Jordan, that was fun. That was fun imagining what possible episodes we could have watched.
Some of those sound fun though. It sounded like Swamp Thing. I'll say this. No, obviously we took the escape pod. It's not a good show. It's had some real problems. Some mechanical, some acting, some mostly just badly written scripts. But some of those sound like they could have been fun things to watch, and maybe there would be a little bit of playfulness, you know?
Could be. I mean, I imagine they're all probably pretty bad, but who knows?
They are pretty bad. I do like, though, that this episode we're talking about, the last episode, is two things. It's like the title, That's a Wrap, because they clearly knew this was the last episode they're making, which is funny that they decided this is the last episode. And also that it's like, yeah, as you said, a real inside baseball to filmmaking. Like, weirdly, there's a lot of like little weird nods to what I'm going to assume is some issues that the writers and filmmakers wanted to point out for other people they worked with.
Well, let's get into it, but I was sitting here watching this and being like, I think this might be driving Jordan insane. But let's find out.
Yeah.
Here's the IMDb
let's
summary
do it.
for Season 3, Episode 39, That's a Wrap. Arcane's genius is about to be publicly lauded in an autobiographical film, but the actor playing him is found murdered in Arcane's trailer. Who was the murderer? And was Arcane the intended victim?
I know. There's something weird about that synopsis. I don't know why even add the thing about Arcane. It's just like, who's the murderer? That's the main thing. I don't know. But anyways, yes, that's going to be what this episode's about. We start with Swamp Thing, like a paper in the swamp has just like blown in, like, I don't know.
No.
Garbage. Yeah.
It's Swamp Thing's subscription to the local paper. He goes out like Tony Soprano in the morning and picks it up. Like it truly is. It's a swamp. He steps out in the water. Yeah. He picks it up like he's expecting it.
I like he picks it up. I couldn't even read what the title says. I thought it would have something about the movie. I think it is in there, but he's just like, danger. And I'm like, okay.
I'll tell you, Jordan.
Yeah.
If you didn't stop to read the headline, he picks it up. He says, I sense danger here. And the headline reads, Jordan, Secret Mickey Paradise spec takes Huma as pick home. And I was like, that's gibberish. That's just gibberish.
That's what I thought, because I quickly scanned it. I should have went back. I quickly scanned it. I was like, I don't see anything about the movie, because you'd assume that's what the newspaper would be saying, like new local independent movies filming near the swamp or something, or something like that. And I'm like, Swamp Thing senses problems. But what was the title again?
Secret Mickey Paradise spec takes Huma as pick home.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was like, I read it, stopped it to read it, and then I played it, and Swamp Thing's like, I sense danger. I'm like, that's nothing. That was like a random word salad.
That's pretty great. But he does. The point is he senses danger. We cut to, and here was what's weird. We're going to find, so it's an actress. She's like, of course she's annoying. She's kind of dumb. And she's reading a script. And what we see is it's an autobiographical movie based on Arcane. They're doing a biopic on Arcane. Who would watch this?
Yes, Jordan. It is a TV movie called The Latent Green.
Mm-hmm. And it's Arcane, Anton Arcane's story, and they're making it. And I do like, though, that he must have some sort of like EP credit or something. He's on the movie, but he has nothing to do with it. But he's there to lend some sort of authenticity to it, and that was very amusing to me, that he would just be wandering around set giving notes that no one wants and thinking his opinion matters, when he's just there to be it's literally just his face so they can say later on, yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he's a consultant.
He's a consultant. It's like, honestly, here's the thing. No one wants to hear from you, consultant. Shut up.
Much of this episode is just a very broad parody of like a filmmaking. That's most of what it is. And I'm not going to go through every single scene, because there's just a lot of just like fluff and like gags about like all stuff you've seen before. But like there's a director who's complaining because he doesn't have enough dolly rail, and he has to shoot 10 pages in a day. And spoiler alert, director, you're never going to shoot 10 pages in a day. It's impossible. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love that when he's like, yeah, there's not enough dolly track. I need you to shoot 10 pages. I was like, unless you're shooting a soap opera, I think they maybe shoot 10 pages a day, because it's literally people just staring at each other while having a glass of wine. Like, you're not shooting 10 pages, my friend. You might shoot 3.
And there's a producer who's a real like sleazeball. He's the one named Mickey Paradise, and like, of course, he's cheating on his wife with all the young actresses. He's a real scumbag. Like, it's just the real broad strokes parody of a producer.
Yeah.
There's an actress who she's trying to make something out of this role, because she usually does schlock for Mickey, and she's tired of doing horror films and nudie films for him. So she's like, I'm hoping this role of Titania Arcane's dead wife will get me out of it.
So I got a weird question for you. Well, I don't know how weird it is, but so obviously the people, they're making fun of their own film industry, and there's some truth probably to this. I guess the point is, wouldn't they have a little bit more authenticity? Like, was it are they making that joke because it's the easy joke to make, or is it because they're doing an actual reflection of things? Because there is some truth to this, but it's just like I can't tell if they were being lazy or if they were making a comment.
I don't think they're really making a comment. I think they're just having a little bit of fun. It's their very final episode, so I think they just thought like, let's do a funny thing where it's like they're making a movie and we like do all the jokes about movie making. As I was watching it too, I was watching it. It's all the general stereotypes you expect to see. But as I was watching, I'm just like, Jordan, how many writers do you know of that like hang out on set with the crew? Like I was just like, how much do the writers even know about what people like? It just feels like I'm like maybe the problem is writers don't really know what a lot of these roles are, so they're kind of just like they themselves are just pulling from stereotypes they've seen in other TV shows.
I think that's probably what it is. It's just like, the skeezy producer and the gaffer who doesn't know what he's doing. It's just like, okay, sure.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what's going on. We meet the actor who's going to play Arcane, and like he's a real troublemaker. He hates the script. He won't wear the long flowing mane wig to be Arcane. He's just difficult all around.
Yeah, and he's like doing like I don't know what it is, like a New Jersey accent, and it's terrible, but it's just basically like he's like the joke is he wants to do different things with the Arcane character, and Arcane's there and doesn't like it. So he's like he wants to do a German accent. You're right. He wants short hair. He doesn't want to be wearing a shirt. All these sorts of things, and Arcane's getting more and more irritated. And I think there was actually something they could have played with a little bit about, having oneself reflected back at you, but maybe not the greatest image. There was something there maybe to play with his character. I don't know if that's your great idea for the last episode of the show, but there was something, if it was like an Arcane episode, there's, I think, something you could have had some fun with.
I mean, it also is undercut because like the idea of this actor playing Arcane is one thing, and maybe this actor doesn't want to play him in the exact same way, but the actor's also, his character trait is he's just a dumb guy, so it's not even like he's like making choices. He's just like, the script is hard, I can't say these lines. I don't want to wear a shirt. I'm like, oh, cool. What an interesting character.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because this guy's going to get killed really quickly right off the bat. Basically, he's like, I don't want to say this line or whatever. And Arcane's like, for whatever reasons, like, I'm going to go talk to the guy, which is like,
No,
what?
the producer makes him do it. He's just like, he won't read his lines. Maybe if the real Arcane tells him about it, like, he's like hoping that Arcane can sweet talk him into it. But you're right. That leads Arcane to go, there's this also weird beat where Arcane's like, well, where can I find him? And he's like, oh yeah, the actor didn't like his trailer, so we've given him your trailer. And Arcane's like, you gave him my trailer.
I know, I was like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway.
Why does Arcane need a trailer?
Yeah. So he goes to the trailer, and when he opens the door, the guy's like dead right there at the stairs, and there's smoke for some reason.
Yeah, just pouring out. My favorite part of this is he opens the door, guy's dead, smoke's pouring out. And then, as if she's standing waiting for this to happen, a woman just like steps in within 10 seconds of like this body falling out, reaches over, checks his pulse, and shrugs.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I guess he is dead.
You mentioned earlier that nobody seems to react to anything on this show, and I really noticed in this episode, I'm like, no one does react to anything in the show.
Yeah. No one sort of, and this is a weird episode because it's more heightened than the other episodes where everyone, you said before, is they're a caricature, but they still don't. You're right. They still don't really react. It's a weird world where no one really looks or acts like humans.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dwell on all these scenes, but over the course of this episode, there will be kind of interstitials cut in, which are just like the actors being interviewed by a lieutenant about the murder of this actor, and they're very strange because they're just. You never see this lieutenant. It's all voiceover, and the actors just sit in a chair in front of a black backdrop as if they're like doing a documentary interview. But that's not what's happening. Apparently, they're being interviewed by a detective about the murder, and nothing comes out of them. Like nothing really comes out of any of these scenes. But what we learn is that it's revealed the actor was killed because he was gassed, strangled, poisoned, stabbed, shot, and mutilated.
Yeah, it's a bit much, but on the note you mentioned about like the sort of this structure of this episode, again, weird to do for last episode, but I think they could have leaned in this as like a special episode where they're like, these characters, this world, we're gonna have a little fun with it, and we're gonna do a weird episode where there's like a documentary or something. The characters are talked to. Multiple episodes of multiple shows have done this to varying degrees of success. They're always kind of a fun episode. And it's like they kind of wanted to do it, but they also kind of didn't. And I was like, oh, it's kind of a bummer. It would have been funny if they'd used these as a way to tell the story. But you're right. You don't learn anything about it other than how the horrible way this guy died. They do a series of interviews with people, but we're supposed to, I guess, learn about their character, but we already really did because they're two-dimensional. So it's like the dumb actress who is kind of superficial and doesn't care about this movie. We find out in her interview that that's still the case. It's like interviews like that. You're like, okay, well, I'm glad you did these interviews. They don't mean anything.
There's also a weird thing that goes away very quickly, but off the top, we see the murder. We get a weird interstitial where someone's being interviewed by the police that's very like out of character for the show, so it's already a little structurally odd. And then they start like messing up the chronology because the next scenes are flashbacks to like
that's right,
Arcane interacting with this actor on set, and like Arcane like is arguing with him about the wig, and then like a light falls down from the ceiling and he almost gets hit, and then there's like a flashback to Arcane, the actor and the actress are in a love triangle together, and there's this moment where I'm just like, oh, is this like non-linear, this episode? But like by the end of the first act, like the rest of the story plays out after the murder. So but for the first like 5 minutes, it's both has these weird interviews that are like they're like taking place in a black void where they don't fit into the structure of the show, and then it's jumping around in time, and I'm just like, is this going to be a very structurally weird show? But they give up on that in the first like 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's as if the murder happened at the wrong time for them. They're like, oh, you have to have the murder off the bat, but they didn't want it there, so they were like, okay, the murder happened, let's go back to the past. And then you think, oh, okay, so they're going to explain everything up to this point to explain the murder. But you're right, as you said, after a few minutes they're like, anyways, we're not doing that anymore. There was a bunch of information we needed you to have. You're like, and what is that information? Arcane doesn't really like what's happening on set, and it's kind of a somewhat dysfunctional set. I'm like, okay, but we didn't need any of that.
We already got that from the opening.
Yeah, it's just, anyways, it's a very, very weird episode. You're right. And there's a lot of elements that are happening. And this episode is so close to being kind of interesting, but for whatever reason, it just sort of falls flat because everything just comes across as lame. Like the skeezy producer, it's like, to what effect? Nothing. His wife's like,
parody,
you're like, you're cheating on me. And you're like, okay, does it mean anything? No. Does the actress mean anything? No. Like even Arcane and his dealing with the actor, does it mean anything? It's like, no, because it takes a while to get to the point of the episode, which is, I guess, Arcane trying to figure out if they were trying to kill him. Is basically what he's trying to figure out.
It takes a long time to get to that even, because what happens, the episode does finally settle into a straightforward chronology at some point. And when it does, what's happening is mysterious rewrites to the script have started showing up after the murder. And the producers loves these rewrites because the movie with the rewrites has become about Arcane creating mutants, turning a rival scientist into a swamp thing. And like, they're so excited about it. At some point, the director's even like, this could be a pilot.
I know, it's so dumb. But there is something funny about that. Arcane has, I guess, sold his idea or his story idea, and someone has written a script, but it's a very like flattering portrayal of him, right? He's this genius, he does all stuff. And again, there's somewhere to play with like his own conceited version of himself, how great it is. And when these script revisions come in, it's the true story. And he's angry both because of everything that's going to be revealed and also because it's now an unflattering version of himself, right? He's a guy who works in caves and creates monsters, which is the reality, but it's not how he wants to be portrayed. And then moreover, it's going to reveal stuff, his nefarious intentions and all these things he's done and also Swamp Thing and all that. But they don't lean into anything enough, so you just get hints of stuff and you're like, okay, I guess it's more about who is this new cloaked figure, because now there's more mystery in this episode.
Yeah, and obviously Arcane does not like the rewrites that are coming in. He does not want to make this version of the movie, as you said. And this is it. It's sort of like the broad parody strokes. And like as you said, like the producer's a philanderer, and then like suddenly his wife has flown out from Hollywood to the swamps to see her husband. And you're like, what is this? Is this a plot? And you quickly come to realize it's like, oh, they needed to bring the wife in there so that Arcane could use this as a way to be like, if you use these script pages, I'll tell your wife you're cheating on her. Mm-hmm. Except that then the producer's just like, what about this? You don't tell my wife. I still use these pages. But since the actor's dead anyway, you can star in the movie. And like Arcane's like, interesting offer. Let me consider it.
Yeah. And I was like, I know it was a weird choice because, like, is that even for this like independent movie, would it make sense for a TV movie to have the actual person playing? It doesn't really make sense. I don't know how that was a good idea, but it's just to keep things going.
Yeah, and then Arcane, he's still a little upset about these rewrites. He's worried, so he goes into the swamp to ask Swamp Thing if he's the mystery screenwriter. And I really wanted to see it be Swamp Thing. He's like typing on a typewriter, typing up new pages, but it's not. It's not Swamp Thing.
Did you like that the revisions? I laughed when they came in as pink because I was like, wait, guys, they're blue first. But then every time the revisions come in, they keep being on pink. I was like, guys, no one's gonna understand what these revisions are. It's blue, pink, yellow, green. Come on, guys.
Dude, I just loved there was entire retro script every day. Like, it's one thing to be like a new script comes in, they're all excited about it, but you'd be so mad if you now had rewrites every single day. Like, you'd be like, oh, we can't do this.
Yeah. It is funny, but everyone the point is that everyone loves the rewrites.
Yes, and Swamp Thing has nothing to do with it. Arcane talks to him. Swamp Thing's just like, hey, listen, man, I don't like you, you don't like me, but I don't want anybody knowing about my existence either. Like, I'm not into that either. So let's team up. It's time for a team up again. We haven't done it in a couple episodes. Me and you got to team up, and let's figure out what's going on here. Swamp Thing's like, listen, man, let's talk about this. Didn't you say a light almost fell on you? And wasn't the dead actor found in your trailers? Like, Arcane, what if someone's trying to kill you? And Arcane's like, holy shit, Swamp Thing, I never thought about that. It might be me. Maybe they're trying to kill me. And they're like, Swamp Thing's like, you got to think about these things.
By the way, this is a way more entertaining scene that you're saying than the one we actually see.
Yeah, and so Swamp Thing that night, he's like, I'm going to go check out what's going on set. Up to this point, we are now more than halfway through this episode. And Swamp Thing's like, I'm going to go to set.
I love it.
Cut to Teresa's being interviewed by the cops. And I was just like, on the black screen, I'm just like, is she in this episode? And then suddenly he's like,
yeah,
she's there. She's on set with Swamp Thing. They're looking around for clues. And Swamp Thing's just like, or I think she's just like, why did we have to come to set? And Swamp Thing's like, oh, I just got to, sense the area. And she's like, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know how to explain it any better than that. I just got to sense it.
I love that. So, yes, Teresa shows up. I was like, why is she being interviewed? Because she's near the set, but she's getting interviewed, and basically they're like, well, you hated Arcane. And she's like, yeah, I do. So, and then she's like, I'll be able to, don't worry, I can take you on this set late at night. So she just takes Swamp Thing to set, and they just walk around. I love it. I think this is one of the first times he's ever left the swamp or the general swamp area. And he's just walking around a building. But it's great what you said is, it is true. She's like, well, why do you need to be here, Swamp Thing? He's like, I just sense things. She's like, what do you mean? He's like, I can't explain it. There's no time. I just sense, okay? And then, but what happens is they're looking through set. I think pages get dropped right in front of her.
Yeah. The mystery screenwriter just drops the new revisions down on the bench.
Your theory of it being Swamp Thing is unfortunately not true. The guy's, we should say he's wearing like
trench coat.
Like he's Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle or something. And he's like, and he starts running away, and Tressa's like, there's the guy. He pulls out a gun, shoots Tressa, but Swamp Thing stands in the way, and it hits him, and then he does nothing else. The guy just is maybe 5 feet away. He runs away, and Swamp Thing's like, she's like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. Anyways, that was something, wasn't it? And then they like stare at each other. And I was like, Swamp Thing? He's right there. Like, go get him.
Did you sense anything, Swamp Thing? No. Let's go back to the swamp.
Yeah. We at least we got to the set. So what did you find? Oh, nothing. So you mean this scene was just here to just be a placeholder? That's correct. Anyways, back to the swamp.
Yeah. Next day rolls around. Arcane has a plan. Unlike Swamp Thing, he's not just going to stand around sensing things. He's got a plan. Since he's the new lead actor, he tells the producer, he's like, I just want to write a very small scene. And the writer's like, and the producer's like, sure, whatever, I don't care. And there's like a weird scene where the director starts fighting, and he's like, it won't fit the cohesion of the script of this movie. And the producer's like, who cares? Do you want money or not? And the director's like, yeah, I love money. Okay, let's do it. And I was like, what is this scene?
I know. It feels like they're making a comment, but I don't exactly know what the comment is, other than like, the movie business is bad, am I right? I'm like, but you guys are working in it. I don't get it.
Anyway, Arcane's plan is very funny. He's like, we have a great tradition in the English theater. I'm going to pull a Hamlet on the real killer.
Yeah. And Yeah. So explain exactly what his plan is. So he has, by the way, we kept forgetting to mention his henchman Graham, who's been in like multiple episodes. I didn't realize till this point that it was the same dude over and over. And I looked at the thing and I was like, oh, this guy's in like dozens of episodes. So it's his like right-hand man Graham, who I think they maybe gave more screen time as the show went on. He's always kind of with Arcane.
Yeah. What he's doing, Arcane, here is he's got his henchman Graham. He's like, Graham, you stand by the lights. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say some things. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause the killer to flee. And when I say the word, flip the lights on and we'll know who the real killer is because he'll be the person who left the set.
Yeah, and I don't know if that exactly works. Because basically, he's like, I'm going to say something so shocking. So you assume it's going to be like, I know who the killer is. And then...
Well, that is what he says, it turns out. Because he goes out to set to shoot it. He stands on an apple box. And instead of reading the lines he wrote, like, to everyone's surprise, he's just like, I, Dr. Arcane, didn't like that actor who got killed, but I know who really killed him. And Arcane, what he's doing here is kind of like... it's not, he doesn't know. He's trying to basically, he's bluffing. He's really bluffing here. And he says, hit the lights, henchman. And the henchman accidentally blacks out the set. And then, while he's done that, you hear guns cocking and Arcane shouting, lights, turn on the lights, henchman. And when the lights come on, literally every person in the cast and crew of the movie is pointing a gun at Arcane.
Okay, and we'll explain this in a second, but... why would all of them have brought loaded weapons to set?
Every single one of them has a gun. Jordan, it's because this is funny?
I think that's what it's supposed to be. So what we're going to find out and right now is that Arcane's like, what? I did this to find out who the murderer is. And then basically, not in unison, but it might as well be, the crew's like, yeah, it's all of us. All of us hated him and all of us wanted to kill him. So, thus, we all have guns on us, and we don't want you to give away our secret?
Yeah, it's really weird. The entire cast and crew murdered the man because I guess they are like the characters from Todd Browning's Freaks, and they punish their own?
It's such an odd idea. The idea that you kind of set up a murder mystery, and the murderer is every character. You're like, oh, that's not clever at all.
At any rate, Swamp Thing steps in to save Arcane, and he does so by taking a high-voltage cable, shoving it into some swamp water, and electrocuting everybody.
Yeah, shouldn't he have done what he did to those poisoned frogs in a previous episode? Just stuck his finger in the ground and just heated everyone to death?
He just likes to shake it up. He wanted to electrocute a large group of people this time.
But wasn't it such a sad thing? Because Swamp Thing has all these powers, and how he did it was just like, it could have been anyone. It didn't have to be Swamp Thing. Someone stuck electrical live wire into apparently super wet ground that they're all standing in, and I don't think that's how they'd all be electrocuted. But anyways, I was like, ugh. You have him powers. You couldn't have thought of anything swamp related?
Not for the final episode, that's for sure.
Not for the final episode.
But we'll go to commercial, come back. Somehow, no one has died.
Yeah. They were all knocked down, and they're now being weirdly taken away by police in like a daisy chain.
Yeah, it's a group arrest. Every single person involved with this production is now being arrested for the murder. And Arcane's just like, well, I guess that's it. We solved the murder of this thing. And like the show's wrapping up, and then Arcane's just like, you know what? We still don't know who that mysterious screenwriter was. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
And then we cut to someone burning pages in the swamp, and we see it was Graham, his henchman, and he's like, I just wanted people to really know how great you were, Arcane, and tell your real story. And I was like, is the true love story of this show between Graham and Arcane?
Yeah, apparently it's like he's burning the pages because he thinks what Arcane does is so cool, and he just thought he wanted the world to see it. But Arcane's mad. Arcane's just like, if I ever find out who did it, I'm gonna kill him. So he's burning all the evidence, and the camera looks over, and of course, who's standing there in the swamp watching passively? Why, it's Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and then Swamp Thing has like a voiceover, and he's like, anyways, I'm Swamp Thing. I'll always be watching, and maybe one day I'll be able to become human again. And I was like, whoa. Swamp Thing, is that what you wanted? You've given no indication of that at all. You've given an indication that you'd like to be left alone. You've never once mentioned you wanted to be human. And then Am I wrong? Does he look at the camera and give a thumbs up?
He doesn't give a thumbs up. This happens, this monologue. He's walking away to his back. You're hearing this thing about how one day he'll become human. But he does turn, look down the camera, and then give it a little wave, and then it freeze frames.
I couldn't tell because the video quality, but in my what I thought it was, he just gives us a thumbs up. But he basically is just like, see you later, folks.
Thanks for coming by the swamp.
And that's it. That's the end of the show.
Jordan, obviously we're wrapping up now. This is pretty much over. I did want to go back. You mentioned it here. There's this henchman Graham, and we have not talked about him at all. We have seen him in previous episodes. We've never brought him up. He's always just kind of in the background. He's always helping out. He really is heavily featured in this episode, and I had noticed him before because he's very specific. He actually is like, he's a bald man. He's always in the background. He kind of has a little bit of a Hunter S. Thompson look to him.
Oh yeah, okay.
But like, I think if you were to describe how he looks, that's a good way of describing it. But it was this episode that I really pinpointed what the thing about this actor was. This actor, in all these episodes, is doing a Jack Nicholson impression.
Is he really? I'd have to rewatch to see if you're correct or not.
If you go back and look, it is a like very broad Saturday Night Live style Jack Nicholson impression. It's all the same cadence. It's all how he pronounces everything. And I'm just like, oh, this guy is just having a blast. Anytime he talks, he's just like, I'm just going to do my Jack Nicholson.
It's very weird. But it is odd that he has been kind of in the background, and we're always just like, oh yeah, there's that guy. And then by this episode, I was like, wait, he's been in pretty much all the episodes.
Yeah, and I had noticed him because he's doing something very specific, and it was only in this episode when I finally figured out what it was. There was this Jack Nicholson impression, and I was like blown away by this man. I'm just like, genius. This man's a genius.
So that's it. That's it for Swamp Thing.
Yeah, Jordan. Well, let's rate it. Let's rate the final episode. That's a wrap.
I don't know. I feel really weird about this. I think we mentioned in the previous podcast that I had thought the show has gotten better as a TV show, and I still feel that way. Like it actually resembles something you'd see on TV, but it's not good. And whereas previously it was really bad, but also like insane, and it sort of lost that insanity. There's a little bit here. It's just like this was like broad and kind of trying to be funny, and I don't know if it plays to the show's strengths, which I don't know what they are, but I just thought this episode was just like, and it was such a kind of bummer for the last episode that it was so just like fine. I'm gonna give it I don't know, I'll give it a 3.5.
3.5. Wow. Yeah, it's a weird episode. I will say there's a little bit of that derangement back, but it is largely related to such an odd thing that's happening here, in that the writers clearly know it's the last episode. The title, That's a Wrap, clearly is indicating, like, we know it's going to be the final one. And they're just like, let's have some fun. Let's do this broad parody of the work we ourselves do. It's such a weird move. The parody is not very good. Structurally, like, as I said, the first 10 minutes are like 5 to 6 minutes are bafflingly constructed. And then, like, the final reveal of just, like, who did the murder is so Looney Tunes that it's just like, what is happening now? That I just don't know how to feel about it either. Like, it's not good, but at least is a little bit demented like it used to be. I'm going to go 2.5.
What's our final rating for this show?
Let's punch it in. Let's see how Swamp Thing reaches the end, what we feel about it as the final rating. All right, Jordan, the computer spitting out the numbers here. I got the ticker tape flying out at me. It is 3.36.
Ooh. Now, this has got to be one of our lowest rated, right? I mean, I feel like I say that so many times when we've taken the escape pod, but this one's really low. I can't remember many 3s before.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say at this point what the lowest ratings are. I mean, this is probably a low rating. I actually think it's higher than I would have expected.
Yeah. So, like, if you were thinking back to some of the really bad shows, like, let's say, what's her drinking tea with Mrs. Noah up in space? What was that show?
Oh yeah, Mrs. Noah. Come Home, Mrs. Noah.
That's right. Like, what's worse, this or that show?
I think this is worse because, I mean, Miss Noah wasn't good, but at least they, like, had fun special effects gags. Like, this show doesn't, like, out in the first episode where they turned a man into a tree, like, they barely want to even show the Swamp Thing suit. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah. It is a bummer that, like, even in this last episode where they want to clearly have a little bit of fun, they don't want to have fun with Swamp Thing. But it's like, but the show's called Swamp Thing. It's not called Arcane. And it's just, I don't know. It's the whole thing was kind of like, we said it from the beginning that I kind of thought, and I think you did as well, that it was going to be more of a sort of like Incredible Hulk type show where, you know, there was going to be new characters every week and he was going to solve some problem, and maybe he's not traveling. They're going to come in and out of the swamp. But what it really became was something really insane. And then somewhere along the way, they were like, let's retool this thing over and over to get a more cohesive show, but a more boring one somehow. So it's just like the whole thing was kind of like, this is at best very forgettable. And I think it's not even funny enough to sort of be worth a peek, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, we didn't see really the second half of the first season, and that's when they retooled the first time. But, you know, we've seen season 2, how they retooled, and it's, yeah, I wouldn't call it cohesive. I would say it's maybe
structurally
more
better.
Coherent. It's maybe just more coherent. But it was better in that in those first 6 episodes, I had more fun, if only just due to the derangement of it all.
Yeah, I would agree. There's certain things, like we've said before, I was really glad when Jim left, and I don't remember his name now, but there was something so funny about just a kid who'd keep walking up to Swamp Thing and Swamp Thing saying like, can you just leave me alone, kid? And then the kid goes back off into some insane adventure that makes no sense. There was something very fun about that and how dumb it was, and yeah, this show is just not good at all.
Yeah, I mean, I would never recommend this to anyone, though if I was like pushed to it, I do vaguely think that first episode is kind of interesting in that it just like, it is, of all of them, it is the one that is the most insane.
Yeah. Maybe if you have to watch it, just watch the pilot and then walk away.
You still won't understand anything what the series is or how it works. I mean, which is fine. It's better to just leave it at that one. Like it's like a fever dream you had.
Yeah, and how did you feel about how they ended it? Do you think it was a fitting ending?
I think that's a wrap, Jordan.
Yeah.
It was clearly, I don't know if you noticed this, Jordan. I mean, you probably didn't, but yeah, I just felt like it was the writers. They were just like, let's have some fun. Let's wrap it up. We'll have some fun. Because even when they show you a close-up of the screenplay with the name of the Dr. Arcane TV movie, it's written by 2 people, and those 2 people share the same last name as 2 of the writers on the show and and the showrunner.
Yeah.
But it's a different first name. But I have a feeling the first name, and I was able to confirm one of them anyway, not the second one. But I think the first names are like the son and the daughter of the writers.
Right.
Like they were just like, oh, this will be fun. We'll put it like that. That's what the feeling I had. It was like, let's just have a goof today in the writers' room. It's the last episode. We'll just have some fun. And
yeah,
you know, I don't hold that against them. Like, sure, why not? Go for it. It's Swamp Thing. Who gives a shit? But you know, it doesn't make for the best episode of TV.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Jordan. That wraps up the coverage of Swamp Thing. But of course, there's always bonus episodes for charity. If you were listening to those summaries of episodes we were talking about at the start, obviously you can't ask us to watch one of the ones that Jordan made up because those don't exist. But maybe one of the real synopses tickled your fancy and you're just like, tell me more about these swamp eggs.
And what about swamp eggs? Or what about the one where Jim is sold into white slavery?
Yeah, maybe you're curious how that came about. There's a way you can do that. There's bonus episodes for charity on our website, continuedrag.podbean.com. We've got all the details there. It's right in the banner, but we've got a list of charities as picked by past guests. You do a donation to one of those charities. You let us know. You tell us which episode of any series we've taken the escape pod from. We've done a best of run, so we haven't watched all the episodes. Any series where we've like kind of left some pieces on the field. We never finished it off. You can say, hey, go back and watch that Time Cop episode we missed where I think he goes down in the ocean in a submarine. I don't know. You can ask for one of those, and we'll go back. We'll do a little bonus episode for you for a little donation to charity. It's a win-win for everyone except for maybe us.
Yeah. The unfortunate people who have to rewatch these shows.
And other than that, you can go to our social media. We're going to have somehow 7 different clips from a single 22-minute episode of Swamp Thing.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. The only thing I could think is Swamp Thing waving and or giving a thumbs up to the audience. That's one.
That's one. I think an entire cast and crew pulling guns on Arcane out of who knows where. Just thousands of guns pointed at him.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this episode, Swamp Thing doesn't really peep on any ladies, so you don't have any of those.
No. They don't show it anyway. He's definitely peeping on somebody, but they're not showing it.
Yeah, just him reading the paper. It would be great if he was doing the rewrites. That'd be a great video clip.
That would have been good. I really wanted that. Actually, I will have him picking up his morning paper. That's a good one.
And you get all those on social media.
Yeah. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The handle there is @ContinuumDrag. It's out there. You can watch all kinds of clips from this show. It'll be a great time. But other than that, we want to thank you for joining us as we finished off Swamp Thing. And Jordan, I will see you next week.
See you on the next one.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delick and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes.